My name is Hassan Sorrells, and this is the Leadership Lessons from the Great Books podcast, Shorts. There's no co-host on Shorts. These are 6 to 8 minute observations, ideas, thoughts, or rants about the literature, philosophy, psychology, and the theology of leadership. Because listening to me talk about leadership for now 6 to 8 minutes is still better than reading and trying to understand yet another business book, even mine. Leaders are people, and leadership is behavior. Which, if that is to be held true, then we have to examine how it is that leaders are developed. It used to be, when information was scarce, leaders were at the top of very high hierarchies, and role models were hard to come by. And it used to be that in those times, leaders were developed through the process of apprenticeship, what today we would call coaching and mentorship. Now that information is abundant, leaders are proclaimed to be everywhere, and yet role modeling remains hard to come by. And now, leaders are developed through information loading and the precarious practice of trial and error, and no one seems to have a handle on how exactly to lead or how exactly to follow. In these times of chaos, disruption, and confusion, the most important practice that a person can engage in is the practice of studying themselves and studying the lessons from the paper leaders of the past. The fact is, with the politicization of broad-based humanities education, leaders who in the past would have learned leadership from a broad-based humanities education, leaders are merely turned into ideological automatons rather than critically thinking decision makers. Or even worse, narrow scientific thinking automatons, specialists who can no more easily talk to a general population of followers than I could talk in a meaningful way to my cat. And when ideology trumps critical thinking, all types of illiterate, ill-thought-out, and ill-considered behaviors just sort of show up. Thus, the cry goes up from the masses of followers as the consequences of such thinking and behaving and decision-making mount higher and higher. The cry of, "Won't somebody do something?" And yet, followers are people, and followership is also behavior. Look, if you can't follow, you can't lead. And if, when a bad decision is made, the first appeal is to the person at the top of a very high hierarchy to quote-unquote do something, well, then Caesar is increasingly empowered and increasingly out of place. Good training for leadership and followership relies on explaining and linking insights, authors, and writing from the fields of psychology, sociology, literature, philosophy, art, and business. Now, leadership training in and of itself is a multidisciplinary practice where the great writers and thinkers of the past, those paper leaders, can help leaders of the future avoid making old mistakes. And it can be a disciplinary and multidisciplinary practice where the great writers and thinkers of the past can guide followers to a better understanding of what the limits and responsibilities of leadership and followership actually are in the real world. This is the point of leadership lessons from the great books. This is also the point of leadership development. So why does it seem as though in the leadership training and development and advice space, quote unquote, everyone is doing it, and by the it, I mean training and developing and giving advice, and yet leaders continue to make poor decisions, followers continue to cry out for action, and many other people just prefer not to think about the dichotomies too closely? The answer to that rather long-winded question lies not in this podcast or in my book or even in our training and development programs. But instead, the answer to that question lies in the heart of every leader, follower, and observer of leaders? In other words, the answer to that question lies buried deep in the chaotic and undisciplined human heart, which is a place of insight only truly great literature, great books, that is, can actually touch. And well, that's it for me. Listen and subscribe to the Leadership Lessons from the Great Books podcast on all the major podcast players that you listen to, including iTunes, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and of course, Spotify. And leave a 5-star review if you like the Leadership Lessons from the Great Books podcast. Look, we need those reviews to grow, and it's the easiest way that you can help us actually grow this show. And of course, tell all your friends. If you want to get started down the leadership path, our products from HSCT Publishing can help you and your team do that. So check out our training webinars, our coaching services, and more at leadershiptoolbox.us. And check out our video-based subscription service at leadingkeys.com. We've got books that will help you and your team grow. So pick up a copy today of My Boss Doesn't Care, 100 Essays on Disrupting Your Workplace by Disrupting Your Boss. And subscribe to the Little Red podcast we launched earlier this year with the same name as this Little Red book. My Boss Doesn't Care, 100 Essays on Disrupting Your Workplace by Disrupting Your Boss. And of course, pick up my most recent book, 12 Rules for Leaders, the Foundation of Intentional Leadership, written with Bradley Madigan. You're going to want to pick up a copy of that in April 2022. And you can get both of these books in paperback, hardcover, or as ebooks on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, and any other place you order books on demand. Finally, we are on YouTube, or I'm on YouTube, or someone around here is on YouTube. So like and subscribe to the video version of the Leadership Lessons from the Great Books podcast on the HSCT Publishing channel on YouTube. Just search for HSCT Publishing on YouTube and hit the subscribe button to get updates every single time we upload a new video, which we do that at least once a week. And subscribe to the Hassan Sorrells Presents Audio Experience podcast. Yes, I have 3 podcasts on YouTube where I talk more casually with a wider range of people about all matters that matter in the world today. Everything from fatherhood to criminal justice, Christianity to artificial intelligence. We cover the entire plethora of things that are floating around in my mind, and that's why it's called an audio experience. All right, well, that's it for me. Out.